We are here with the Speaker of the Knesset in Jerusalem. I'm excited to talk with him. He's got all of his guitars arrayed here. We were just talking about he needs to come to Nashville and visit at some point.
Absolutely.
Amir Ohana. I'm going to call you Mr. Speaker, and we have had Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the United States, on the program several times. I got a lot that I want to dive into with you on, but let's start with the major issues that are going on in Israel right now and how the United States can help Israel in many of the issues that it's dealing with. And in particular, how the new president can help Israel with many of the issues that it's dealing with. President Trump made a strong statement about the importance of the hostages being able to be returned. It's now been over 430 days since the October 7th terror attack. What did you see as the impact of President Trump's statement, and how impactful is the President of the United States, Donald Trump, the President-elect, in your mind, to being able to bring those hostages back? How impactful can he be?
Thank you, Clay. It's very good to be with you. Thank you for having me on your show. And on such a special day, because we just hosted the President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña, that came to announce to the people of Israel that he is reopening the Paraguayan embassy in Jerusalem, following the footsteps of President Trump. That was the first to do so, which we highly appreciate. So yes, based on the first tenure of President Trump, I believe we are about to experience the golden age of the relations between the United States of America and Israel. We see the team, may I say the dream team, that President Trump is assembling regarding Israel. I was just talking about guitars with my friend Mike Huckabee,
The next ambassador.
the next ambassador in Israel, which is also a guitarist, and we're going to jam some sessions together. And yes, I think that it is a very, very important thing that the relations between the two leaders, between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President of the United States, President Trump, will be as good as possible. And this is the case. These are two leaders that knows each other for decades. And so I believe that it's going to be very, very meaningful. The powerful statement that you have just mentioned is exactly what was needed. It was very powerful, and it was very impactful in the entire Middle East, because in order to bring Hamas to release the hostages, we need both military pressure and diplomatic pressure. And some of the statements that we heard throughout the last year from leaders, for instance, Israel should cease fire immediately. We should stop shipping weapons to Israel. We should embargo Israel. We should recognize a Palestinian state, which is very clearly a reward for the atrocities of October 7th, were very, very counterproductive in that field. They had, Hamas listening to that is saying, okay, all we need is just to hang on long enough until the world will stop Israel from coming after us. So the statement of President-elect Trump was very meaningful, very powerful, very important, and brilliant.
How closely did you watch the American election night in particular? We have been told that if Israel could vote, if everybody in Israel could vote, Trump would have won a massive landslide victory inside of this country. Do you think that that is true? And do you think most Israelis were rooting for Trump to win? What was the reaction you saw on election night to his victory here?
In just 4 years of his first tenure, President Trump kicked out the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, out of D.C. He backed off the harmful Iran deal. He recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. He recognized Israeli sovereignty over Jerusalem and did what he said he's going to do, moved the American embassy to Jerusalem.
What's the impact, before we go into the election, for people out there who may not understand? What is the impact of the embassy, the American embassy, being in Jerusalem for the Israeli people and for the American people?
I think most of our listeners are evangelical Christians, which we cherish the friendship and the brotherhood with them very, very much. They know what Jerusalem means to the Jewish people. For 2,000 years, 100 generations of Jews from all over the globe, from Morocco to Yemen to America to England to Russia and so on, Poland, have dreamed and yearned and prayed to the same thing. Next year in Jerusalem. Next year in Jerusalem. 2,000 years, imagine that. We have never forgotten the promised land and our spiritual capital of Jerusalem. And President Trump came and said, this year in Jerusalem. And this was very, very powerful, very meaningful for us as Jews and for us as Israelis. And we hope that many more will follow the footsteps of President Trump, as President Peña just did today.
The reaction to Trump's victory, it seems that Israelis were very happy. Would you agree that if Israelis could have voted, they would have wanted Trump to win? And if so, you just laid out all those things that he did that are positive. What could he do going forward to also further the relationship and make it even better?
The polls show exactly what you have just said. Of course, as a symbol of a state, I cannot take sides. We must remain and maintain our relations with America on the bipartisan level. We need to be able to work with whoever it is that the American people elects as president. And so we have throughout the years. But as I said, as I mentioned, President Trump was a great friend and still is a great friend for the state of Israel. So we are very happy to be able to work with him. Of course, at this time, we are still in war. We can use every ammo we need. We don't ask anyone to fight our battles. We don't need boots on the ground. We will do our battles, and we pay very heavy prices for that. We lose our troops and soldiers and servicemen almost every day. But we do need ammo, and we hope that we can get as much as possible. And we do need America's back, which President Trump has proven that we will have his back and America's back. America is not only an important state, it is the leader of the free world, if you will, a light unto the nations. This is how we consider America and America's leadership. And I think the mere message that America stands by Israel does wonders to deter our enemies, and there are many, many around us.
What's the impact of Assad being out in Syria, both on Iran, on Israel, and the larger Middle East? What's the best result there so far as you can see right now in the very early days as Syria has new leaders?
So we are cautiously observing what's happening in Syria and even taking action to defend Israeli civilians. Of course, Assad was a part of the axis of evil that Iran was trying to build in order to surround us and suffocate the state of Israel. And now it's gone. Syria is no longer Syria. The Assad regime has fallen. So these are good news because our greatest enemy is Iran. And whatever weakens, not Iran, let me be more clear, the Ayatollah regime of Iran, because
Yes.
amongst the people of Iran, we have great relations. We used to have great relations before 79. But then came the Ayatollah regime and changed everything. And they have a plan to destroy the state of Israel by the year 2040. This is their plan. And they have done actions to promote that plan. But gladly, they have found our resistance. And we have crippled Hezbollah, one of the maybe the largest terror organizations in the world, definitely in the Middle East. severely. Leadership, ammunition, personnel, everything. And it is much weaker than it used to be. We have crippled Hamas almost completely. So Iran's plan is being foiled by Israeli forces and brave troops. And this will continue to be the case until we return the 100 hostages that are still being held in captivity in Gaza by Hamas. We are going to continue until we return the tens of thousands of displaced civilians to their homes up north safely. And it will continue until we can assure we can provide a better future for the following generations at both sides of the fence, by the way.
We got a lot of parents and grandparents and also college kids that listen to this show. I'm sure that you saw the protests on American college campuses. I know that got a great deal of attention here, from Columbia in New York City all the way to UCLA, across the country in Los Angeles. What would you tell American college kids who were showing up and supporting the Palestinians, Hamas, in the wake of October 7th, that they don't know or don't hear that maybe their parents and grandparents should be telling them, and if they're the college kids listening right now, that they should know?
First of all, I want to commend Congresswoman Elise Stefanik.
Yes.
The soon-to-be American ambassador at the UN. I hosted her here in the Knesset a few months ago, commending her for the way she handled the leadership of the Ivy League, of those colleges that refused to deal with anti-Semitism in their colleges, in their campuses. I'll be honest, we hoped that anti-Semitism is a matter of the past.
Yes.
We thought that once we have a state of our own, it will gradually diminish and disappear. But October 7th, of course, has proven us wrong. Not only we see a rise of anti-Semitism, we see an explosion of anti-Semitism since October 7th, which is very sad, very unfortunate, but something that we will need to deal with. We consider Israel not only as a state for the Israelis, but a state for the Jewish people. And so, thus, we consider the Knesset as a parliament not only for the Israeli people, but for the Jewish people. We are in touch with our Jewish communities throughout the world, with the leaders of those countries throughout the world where you have Jewish communities, and demanding that they will handle anti-Semitism. But let me tell you, Clay, do you know when did we experience the peak of Israel's popularity? That was following the 1967 war. We were triumphant in 1967, and the world loves winners. So we shall continue to fight until we win.
Evangelical support, you mentioned it. There are lots of Christians that want to see Israel succeed, thrive, and be safe. How important is the support of American Jews and also American Christians in Israel's ability to defend itself and, frankly, even continue to exist?
Extremely important, which is why we maintain and strengthening the relations between the State of Israel and America, American leaders, religious leaders. Now look, Clay, I'm not the most religious member of Knesset here. I have to be honest.
Yeah.
But I have a huge amount of respect to my tradition and history and to the story of my people that is being told in the book of books, in the Holy Bible. When I read the story of my people, and I find that more than 80% of the locations that are stated as the land of Israel are located in Judea and Samaria, or what some would refer to as the West Bank. It is then that I understand that the roots of my people, that the places where our ancestors walked on the face of this earth and the Hebrew language was first heard, are in Judea and Samaria. So this notion, this foil idea of a two-state solution as something that will bring peace has no grounds. I don't support it. I think I represent the majority of Israelis that do not support it. And I think that what President Trump brought with him in his first tenure was amazing. We have managed to expand the circle of peace, not with one, not with two, but with 4 Arab countries, without giving up lands, without evacuating Judea and Samaria. Peace for peace. And it was a glorious event, on the White House. And then I was fortunate enough not only to be a minister in the government that signed the Abraham Accords, but also the first speaker of Knesset to be invited to speak in a Muslim country's parliament. That was Morocco. And we were on the verge of expanding the circle of peace even further before October 7th. And we expect that this will be the case once we win this war and we have President Trump at the White House.
You feel good. You talking about expansion. It was close to having a deal with Saudi Arabia as well, which would have been huge. Some people say the reason Hamas attacked on October 7th was to try to derail that relationship, that agreement. Jared Kushner did a great job with the Abraham Accords, with the Trump administration. Are you optimistic that there can be further peace accords in the next 4 years of the Trump administration, maybe including Saudi Arabia, ultimately?
I was fortunate enough to walk through the trails of Kfar Aza, the kibbutzim and the Gaza envelope, with Jared Kushner and Ivanka.
Yes.
A few months ago. And I was very impressed. Very talented, very smart. And I know that he was orchestrating the Abraham Accords. And I hope that we can indeed, and I believe that we can indeed expand the circle of peace. You mentioned Saudi Arabia, the biggest Arab, or at least one of the most important Arab countries throughout the world. And you're absolutely right. Iran is very concerned about the expansion of the circle of peace between Israel and Arab countries and America. And so it tried to stop it. I believe by now, Clay, I think it would be safe to say that as devastated we are and traumatized by the events of October 7th, that will never heal. This scar will go with us for generations. Our enemies realizes they did a big mistake. Huge mistake.
I think that's correct, that the ultimate result of October 7th has been the collapse of Hezbollah, the collapse of Hamas, the collapse of Syria. The ultimate best result would be the collapse of the Ayatollah's leadership in Iran. What is the next step that should happen for Iran if you were advising America with Donald Trump coming into office? What's the best way to handle what is an evil leadership regime, I think it's fair to say, that doesn't represent most of the Iranian people? As you said, prior to that revolution in 1979, there was a good relationship there.
Indeed.
What's the right result? What should happen?
I think one of the lessons of October 7th is that you cannot or should not put your problems in a box and push it away, expecting them to disappear somehow.
Yeah.
They don't. They only grow stronger in the darkness, and then you must deal with them once they are way bigger. This is the case with the Ayatollah regime of Iran. They do not possess nuclear weapons now. Imagine if they will succeed to go that way, and they are doing attempts to go that way, to obtain nuclear weapons, then the threat to the world peace is way graver, which is why I think we should deal with it now.
Stop them from being able to get nuclear weapons.
Iran must not exit this war the way it entered. They have to pay a heavy price for what they did through their proxies, Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Houthis, the Shiite militias, all of those organizations, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, they need to pay a price. And I think America is the leader of the free world. It's not just another country, it's a superpower. And this is what differs a superpower from just a nice country, successful country. They operate way beyond their borders in order to succeed, to maintain their position as the leader of the free world.
All right, I'm going to give you an invitation. When you officially end the war here, you have to come to Nashville. You love playing the guitar. You've got, how many guitars did you say you have?
These are 4 out of 26 guitars that I own.
4 out, 26
currently.
guitars. You've never been to Nashville.
Never yet.
When the war ends, you come to Nashville. I will take you out. You will be blown away by how amazing the musicians are in Nashville. And I bet we can even get you up on stage and give you an opportunity to play. Does
You
that sound
got
like
it.
a deal?
You got it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the hospitality. One last thing. I know a lot of people are not traveling now. But in the wake of October 7th, there are a lot of people struggling all over the country in many different facets. One of them is usually Israel has a huge tourism industry. Tons of people come in. We have had an opportunity to see how beautiful this country is. When people start, the flights are all returning, what would you say they should see if they come to Israel? And do you think they would find it to be a welcoming place?
Absolutely. It's a warm, welcoming place, definitely to Americans. It's a small country. You know, normally when Americans come to Israel, we say it's the size of New Jersey.
Yes.
No, but since my last visit in Chicago, observing over the 5 lakes, I have watched Lake Michigan.
Yes.
And I realized that it is 3 times the size of Israel.
That's wild.
So Israel is a very small country, and it's just a short visit. You get to see old and new. You get to walk in the footsteps of Jesus Christ.
It's true.
If you go through the tunnels underneath the Western Wall in Jerusalem or in Nazareth, and of course Tel Aviv with its great restaurants, in Jerusalem, you know, you can see so much in such a short time, and it's basically like a time tunnel.
Yes.
Do you remember that show of the time tunnel?
Oh, I do,
With
yes.
Doug and Tony? Was it
Yeah.
back in the 80s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what you do when you come to Israel.
Thank you so much, sir. I know how busy you are. For everybody out there, Amir Ohana, he's going to come play guitar when the war is over. But until then, sir, good luck. I know you've got a lot of battles still to fight, but I know Donald Trump is going to have a great partnership, and a lot of our listeners are looking forward to peace, prosperity around the world for
Amen.
Israel and the United States.
Amen to that. Thank you,
Thank you,
Clay.
sir.
Thank you.